So do you feel like, what do you think about the term all publicity is good publicity?
I think publicity is just publicity. I don't think there's good or bad publicity. I get what that term means though. Like I see a lot of like, I feel like there's a lot of like behind the scenes where people go like, yeah, we'll have beef or pretend like we got beef because there's going to be publicity and whatever. I see there's a lot of these like media stunts and stuff, but yeah, man, I think obviously the value there is the attention, innit? So it's like, if they can get attention, it helps them build a brand. And sometimes the building a brand might look like, hey, this person fucked up, but then they go, hey, I made adjustments and I'm a good person now.
For real?
Yeah. And people go, oh my God, I kind of rate that because...
But so those are like the orchestrated ones where it's like fake beef and stuff like that. But even if you're not orchestrating nothing, you're just talking, but something you've said has really upset a lot of people, isn't that still better than everything you said has no effect in the world at all? No one even knows that you even said anything.
But so in a way where that's done by accident or if it's done on
by
purpose?
accident. It's just happened.
By accident, fair enough. But I feel like we got to the stage where like, I think some people done it by accident. And I think people realize that actually it's kind of working. Like they done it by accident. They go, you know what? How can we do this on purpose now? And I think that's what I got a problem with. I got a problem with people doing it on purpose in order to gain. And to me, that's not like, to me, it's a little bit inauthentic and it's a little bit of manipulative. So I think for me, it's just all about organic growth. And, you know, I was talking about this earlier before we started this anyway. It's just, you know, whoever messes with someone's content or whoever likes it, I think there's community to be built for every single thing that people do in the world. Bro, that's like the craziest communities out there. What was that case where there was a cult where they all like basically killed themselves? They took some kind of... Yeah. That's a community, but that's crazy, bro. And you know what I'm saying? There's all kinds of communities out there.
But it was like, that case in particular, was like, the guy like gave them like no other option basically. He basically made them join. He found people who were like desperate for a community, people who felt alone and they needed somebody to guide them, And then he basically made them cut off everyone else. So they only looked to him for guidance. And then he moved them to like a place, like some faraway place. I think it was in South America or something along the lines. And basically they were on this compound and no one was allowed to leave this compound. So it's like just the maximum amount of brainwashing going on. And then it was like a culture of like, everyone snitching on each other, everyone telling the big boss what the other person done wrong. So it was like, you can do that to people, but it's like, that's very orchestrated. That's not just something natural. That's something that's like very controlled.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was quite a sad case. Like, cause I've seen like videos of those people basically saying, like sounding positive, sounding like what they think what they're doing is right. But then it's kind of scary, like to know that not long after that, they were kind of all like manipulated into taking this substance and they all died.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like what the guy did, he kind of like played them on their needs of what they needed. And I think there's ways of doing that in a positive way. There's like going, you know, like someone's got a need of, you know, I don't know, like maybe connecting with people or they got a need of achieving something in life. And I think there's ways of doing that in a positive way where I feel like what he's done, and obviously, you know, people will say always like negative and positive, subjective, but I just feel like, you know what, I'm going to go back to this thing of adding value. And I feel like what he didn't necessarily add value to the world. And I feel like there's things that people can do that adds value to everyone and everyone benefits from it, which I think that's probably the best way of living in life in general as an individual. Actually, you know what? So some people won't know. We shot an episode before, and you spoke about becoming a version of yourself where you can actually add value to other people. And I think that's the best way to live, and I appreciate that about you as well.
Yeah, I think that is the best way to live, and I do agree with that. I wasn't sure whether he was going to mention that we've done an episode before or not, but
no, we just listen. This is like as authentic as possible, and I'm not going to get into the details of why we couldn't release the episode, because I don't want to make someone feel a type of way. Aladdin. But either way, we're here now, and I'm super grateful for having you here as well.
No, I appreciate it, man. As I say, I really enjoyed the last time. I think you guys are both great. I really enjoyed your company and having these conversations, and even like the other content you have on your channel. Like, I really like it. It's really like, I don't know, it's like deep conversations. I said this to you a few times, but yeah, I really like what you're doing. So it was my pleasure to come back.
Yeah, likewise, man. So listen, how do you get a feeling of importance? And what's the one thing that people should know about you? I asked this last time, but we're going to run it again.
Feeling of importance. It's probably going to be different answers because at the moment I just answered in the time. So right now, I feel like my feeling of importance is pretty much what you said, where it's like value, offering value. So something that I'd done a long time ago that I haven't mentioned to anybody yet, but it's just something that I've done yet, is I wrote on a bit of paper about 10 things that were really important to me, that I really wanted to achieve, I wanted myself to be. And one of them, like one of the main ones, I think it was the first or second on the list, was to be an asset to my immediate community and then the broader community. And that's very important to me. I feel like if I'm able to add value or, I don't know, just to help in some way, then yeah, that makes me feel like I'm important, like I'm worth being here. Because I feel like life is very short and it's a blessing to even be here. There's a lot of people who never made it. I saw on one of your, on the episode I was watching on the way up here, you was talking about how, what if before you were born, your dad just like put you on the tissue. And that made me think like, yeah, it's mad. Like it's like we all could have just not been here. It's like, it's actually very unlikely that we would have been here, but we made it here. And since we're here and life is so short, I feel like a good way of living is to try and be an asset to your immediate community, which would be maybe your family, your parents, if you have children, if you have a partner, that sort of stuff. And then after that, when you are an asset to these people, then try and be an asset to the broader community. Try and do something that affects people who are not necessarily attached to you, but you can help them. And yeah, I think that's what will give me meaning.
Bro, I've got so many questions. I'm very excited. Like compared to last time I was excited, but I'm super excited today. So I'm going to try and pack a lot of the different things here. Just going back to what if my dad had a bash and I wouldn't exist, yeah? Do you think, and I was thinking about this, so I was thinking about it further. Every single time I have a conversation, I always try to take it further and reflect on it even more, yeah? Like, do you think we are, as human beings, we're like competitive by nature and the competition starts from when we're trying to like swim to the egg? Because obviously there's I'm thinking like, obviously I'm born now, but there's a bunch of other people that could have been born. Like bunch of different maybe versions of me or other versions. I don't know who they are, but they didn't make it, innit? So that's part of like the competition sort of thing. Yeah. So do you think the nature maybe starts there, which is kind of like a wild thing to say, but...
Yeah, I think so. I think we are competitive by nature, but I don't think it's competitive for the sake of competing. I think it's competitive for the sake of survival. It's like we want to be the one that lives. Like what happens to all of those sperms that don't get to the egg? I imagine they just die. So it's like we want to be the one not to die. So it's survival. And even when you talk about stuff like money and all these sorts of things, it's like, why do we want money? And a lot of the reason is because we want to survive. We want to have the things we need. We want to be able to prevent negative things from happening to us, like debt collectors coming to our yard or whatever it is, or like whatever. Your family needs some money at this moment and you're not able to give it to them. It's like little things like that. It's like we want to be able to survive. We want the people around us to survive. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's what makes us competitive. Like it's kind of like a tribal sort of thing. It's like your tribe, you want them to survive and do well, and the other person is just like, obviously you care about people in general, but if it's your tribe versus random people you don't know about, you're gonna do whatever you can to make sure your tribe's all good. And I think that's something that's synonymous with humanity. That's something that's like ingrained into all humans. Some people fight against them natural urges, but I think it is a natural urge.
Yeah. So do you think like, so I was reflecting on this quite a bit before, and I know you talk about tribal mentality. I've seen some of your content around that and how that kind of fits within racism as well. And I agree to some extent, I agree with it anyways, but I don't want to get into all of that now. But in terms of sort of like biological ways of behaving and stuff, like do you think, so let's take Stone Age, for example, yeah? Do you think we're any different now compared to Stone Age in terms of how we behave?
Well, firstly, before I answer it, let me say I'm not that educated on this topic.
Me neither. So
don't really know. Like, there's probably somebody who's been studying it for years and years, and they could tell you the intricate details of it. But what I just feel viscerally is that humans have always been intelligent. I don't imagine there was a time when, I don't know, like this stereotypical idea of there was cavemen who were just carving stuff on the wall, and like maybe they were so excited when they found fire or something along them lines. I don't really think that that's human history. I think what we are today is probably what we've always been. We've probably always had the capacity for like supreme intelligence, and that's why we're the apex predator of the planet, because we have a capacity. There's something to do with like the way we are, like our brain. So I think that humans have always been intelligent. So if the question is, how have we changed from then till now? I imagine, I don't know if we have changed. But again, I'm not educated, so I don't know.
Well, that's the reason why I'm bringing it up, because I was reflecting on this a little while ago. And I was thinking about, so for example, like let's say like a caveman would go hunt back in those days, right? To provide food. Well, like now we'd go to work to provide food. Let's say, I don't know how they used to like maybe like attract women or whatever. And now we've got like certain statuses and stuff to attract women, or maybe certain qualities about ourselves, or maybe the looks, whatever it is. But like basically the point I'm trying to get to is that whatever we used to do back then, we do it now, but just in a different way. Yeah. And for example, like even a community thing, or like let's say like at work, right? Or let's say there's a tribe back in those days, yeah. If someone done something wrong that a tribe didn't agree with, they would maybe like tell them to leave the tribe. Yeah. Well, like now, let's say in a workplace, if someone done something mad, they'd be like, you have to, you're fired. You have to leave the workplace. Or even in communities, they'd be like, no, you can't be part of this community no more. So to me, when I start reflecting on it that way, I'm like, we haven't really changed much apart from how we utilize our how we translate our primal needs into intelligence, and how we use intelligence to meet those primal needs. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, no, I agree. And to me, it's not obvious that back in them times, all there was to do was hunt. That's not obvious to me. It seems to me that there would have been hunters, the ones that are good at hunting, but there would have been loads of other people, and gatherers, they would have done whatever else had to be done. And maybe there'll be like whatever we have now. Maybe there'll be somebody who is very popular for whatever reason, and he would have security guards. He would have people who would just hang around him to protect him, and things like this. I just imagine that all of the things that we have today, they probably would have had back then, but just in different ways. So I think, that's what I imagine. It's so similar to what you said, that basically it's just, maybe it just, I don't know, it comes out in a different way because of the modern technologies we have. But even that, it's like, it's not obvious to me that technologies are like the new technologies we have now. It's not obvious to me that there wasn't technologies like that back then. I don't know if they had technologies and then it was just lost. Like people just didn't know about it after a while. Like something happened, some sort of war or something, or some sort of, I don't know, global event, maybe like the flood that a lot of religions talk about, whatever, and just washed everything away. And it's like, if that did happen, if that happened today, probably for a certain amount of thousands of years, we would be trying to still work out everything from scratch again. And then we would get back to where we're at today. So I think it's not obvious to me that we haven't done what we're doing now back then. That's really interesting. So someone said this to me a little while ago as well. They said that everything we're doing now, or the stage we're trying to get to, is the stage we were at before. And I didn't know what you meant by that. I didn't question it, but it kind of hit me. I was just like, I don't know, why is this hitting me so much? And it feels like we are sort of like going in circle, maybe. Like a cycle. Yeah, it's like the cycle now is just like people become a bit more inhuman, and maybe people are going to remember, hey, actually, like being human is very important. Or technology gets to a certain point where we destroy ourselves and then it starts all over again. Maybe that keeps on happening over and over again throughout human history. And there's no clear starting point. I don't think anyone knows when we actually first was here, because it's the idea of, okay, so did we evolve? Is there such a thing as evolution? Did we evolve from some other animal? And if we did, then when was that? What point was that? Because evolution supposedly happens over millions of years, isn't it? So it's not clear. But do we need to know? And that's the other thing. Like, do we need to know? And will we ever know? And And also, it's like, do you want to be the person that finds out? You know, because there's all these different questions, and it's just like sometimes go like, you know what? I'm just gonna appreciate it instead. Like I'm gonna appreciate what it is for what it is, and what it's not at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's probably the healthiest way to live.
Yeah.
I think if you stress out about things that are completely out of your control and there's no way of proving, then it probably is not a happy existence.
Definitely. And until this day, it fascinates me how, you know, we could have built something very different from time ago. And it's just, and I think this is where I started like, because before I used to be like, oh, I don't think I want to be a leader, or I don't think I want to be the person that's always like in front trying to change certain things. And actually my mindset changed with that, because what I realized is that where we got to today is because there were leaders who were trying to push for certain things. And sometimes they didn't push for the best things possible. So I'm like, you know what? I believe that I can push for things that are better or add more value to people's lives than what some other people push for. Yeah. So that's why I was like, you know, actually I need to be more in a leadership position and doing that more.
And sometimes good things come from bad places, isn't it? Sometimes there might be someone who's trying to push for something that's that might be not necessarily good, but good things come from it.
That's a good point.
So a lot of technology that we have is the result of war, is the result of armies trying to find a better way to like kill their enemies, basically. And then it just trickles down to society, and we're just better for it. And there's probably a lot of good that has been done because of stuff like computers. But the first computer was, I think it was the Enigma machine from, is it World War II or something like that?
I'm not sure, but it was like I said, but World War II, but it must have been like huge. That's all I know. It was apparently it was just big.
Yeah, so that was designed for war, like to help them win a war. And some people might say they're completely against the idea of war and it's not good and we should get along and all them sort of things. But that resulted in us creating computers, which resulted in so much good in the world.
An information war. Yeah. But that's why I'm laughing, because the war hasn't ended since then. That's when the war started. So when they created that computer, that's when another war started. War of information. And it's interesting, because I feel like now we're starting to hit a new era with the whole, you spoke about AI on your show. It was a super lit conversation. People check it out. We'll put a link in the description, but I'm not going to get into AI too much, but now with the AI getting to the point where they can like process all this information faster than a human being and give us information and just kind of like a click of a few fingers, or a few buttons, sorry. I think we're starting to enter an era of knowledge. So it's like, how do we utilize this information? Because I feel like that's one thing that AI can't do, like we can. So it's like, we can look at information and have the critical thinking level of it and then utilize it in a certain way. So I think that's what AI hasn't reached that yet. And we don't know if it's going to reach that point anyways. Yeah. It might not. But I feel like that makes a big difference. And I feel like, just going back to the information thing, that's why there was a information of war, but what's going to happen when there's war of information. What's going to happen when there's war of knowledge? When we enter that era, and that's going to be interesting to see.
What do you think about the term knowledge is power?
It depends. Yeah, it depends on what kind of power we're talking about. Because I think obviously, again, like power can be perceived in a negative or a positive way. So I don't even think much about it. I just think.
Do you think it's true or not?
I think it's true.
Like that, I think with more knowledge,
I think it's definitely true. I think it's definitely true. I think it's, to me, it's just pretty straightforward. It's just, I think it's definitely true. It just, like I said, it just depends on what kind of power we're talking about. Because obviously power can be positive or negative, and everyone's gonna have a different like definition of what positive and negative is. But again,
so what do you think about, so that being said, what do you think about the idea of preserving knowledge or restricting knowledge, like not letting people know certain things? So imagine you're in a time where no one knows anything about electricity and you know everything about electricity. So you could just tell everybody, but wouldn't it, like, you'd probably be more, I don't know what the term would be, probably be more significant or powerful if you kept it to yourself and then just people had to come to you if they wanted electricity.
Yeah.
You would just sort it out for them. They would never understand it. And so do you think that is something that's worth doing, or do you think it's better for society if everyone knows whatever, everything, everyone knows everything?
Do you know what? I'm gonna like help the world sort of thing, or like improve the world. So personally, and I know that some people use it like that. Some people have knowledge and they use it as like, this is our thing. And you talk about this like tribal mentality. Certain tribes that will have certain knowledge that wouldn't share it with the world. But personally, I think sharing with the rest of the world is beneficial for everyone. Because if one person benefits, I benefit too, indirectly sometimes.
I think so as well.
So I think some of those barriers are being broken down. For instance, like I never used to like see much content on how Jewish people manage the money. And, you know, some people would stereotype as that Jewish people are like the best at managing money and all of that stuff. I'm not into stereotypes anyways. I try to look at people as individuals. I don't think one brush paints everyone. But there's a channel that I came across on YouTube where the person would have a lot of like very, you know, you can call it powerful Jewish people that will go in there and talk about finances and stuff. And I've learned so much from it. And that's like beneficial for me. But if they would have never shared that and they never created that channel, then I would have never learned that.
Yeah.
So to me, just spreading like any type of knowledge or information, I think is really, really beneficial for everyone. I think everyone benefits from it.
I agree. And also, when you're teaching somebody something, you learn more about it by teaching. So it's like, because they'll ask questions that you didn't even consider. And then it's like you have to actually understand what it is to a deeper level to be able to explain it to them. So yeah, I think it's always beneficial to pass knowledge on.
Yeah.
And I think it's what we kind of just have always done as a human species. But I understand why people try to limit it and try to restrict the access to it. So there's a lot of stuff that like the patents have been put on the shelf and will never be released. And if anyone tries to bring it out, then the government or whoever will shut them down. So for example, cars running on water and stuff that. Like that's something that there's a patent for that's been done years and years ago.
Well, there is that conversation surrounded, you know, cars running on hydrogen. And I remember talking to my friend and he was like, oh, they shut it down because then petrol companies wouldn't benefit and all of that stuff. You know what, sometimes, and this is like, I don't know if it's true or not, but that's an assumption, right? But sometimes there might be different reasons why they haven't done it yet. Maybe the technology hasn't advanced to that level, or maybe it's not sufficient. I don't know what it is, but actually there's hydrogen cars being made now. That's
they're
really,
trickling
really
it
cool
out now.
concept.
But
they're bringing it out now.
They've had it for the technology for a long time.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Maybe
decades.
people didn't want to invest in it at that time because everyone's like, hey, like petrol works, diesel works. Maybe they don't. So sometimes I try not to assume too much that there's people that want to profit. But yes, we do live in a world where there's people that will do like evil shit, or they'll try to block certain things because it benefits them.
I don't know if it's evil. I think it's just strategic. It's just they're just playing it like very strategically, and their goals are their own benefit as opposed to just general benefit of the world.
I'm really sorry. I don't think anyone or many people are evil, because I think the definition of evil is like sadistic in a way. Like I want you to suffer because I like seeing you suffer. I think the mindset of a lot of our governments and a lot of people that profit from a lot of stuff is the same mindset as an artificial intelligence. If an artificial intelligence was to ruin or end the human race, it wouldn't be personal. The human race is just a bump on the road. Then like Elon Musk says, if I want to make a road and there's an anthill on the road or where I'm going to put the road, I want to make a road. So therefore, bye anthill. It's nothing to do with, it's not like I hate ants and I want to see them dead. It's nothing to do with that. So it's just these people that benefit and profit from humans and whatnot, they just want to benefit and profit from it.
Yeah.
They don't care. And if some people have to suffer, that's a risk they're willing to take.
Yeah. And the people that will suffer are not their people, so who cares?
And it goes back to the whole tribal thing is like, I don't know you. So I don't have that emotional attachment. I don't have that feel. I don't have that feeling of sorry for you.
Exactly.
Plus, I don't see it. Like a lot of most of these company owners don't see the children working in factories and sweatshops and whatnot, they don't see them.
Yeah.
So they don't have the alignment of my actions and these kids suffering. There doesn't align for them.
Yeah.
You know what? You're right on the tribal thing. You know, I think, and I think the tribal thing also translates into community. So like I'd call it, you know, some people might call it community, some people might call it tribe. I was thinking like, bro, like football clubs, like football fans, they're in a tribe.
Yeah.
And the tribal, I guess the tribal mentality has an element of, you know what? I think there's a difference. Yeah. So let me break it down. Yeah. So I think with community, right? People might go, this is our community, but we're not excluding other people. We still kind of like mess with other people. Like we appreciate them. But the tribal mentality has got an element of like, if you're not part of this tribe, then fuck you kind of thing. Because I see that with a lot of football clubs, right? And there's a lot of football clubs where some people behave like it's community and some people behave like it's a tribe. And the ones that behave like it's a tribe, they go like, nah, that football club, that we don't fuck with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so bro, that's an interesting point. It just made me think about that. I've got a question for you, yeah, and I want to explore change a little bit. In one of your episodes, you said that inability to change is people's biggest downfall.
Yeah, some people's biggest downfall.
Some people's biggest downfall. But it didn't necessarily go into the details of what change meant to you. And I wanted to explore that a little bit. So either what it meant to you or how you define change and just how you perceive change in general.
I think it's quite a complicated one. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it justice because it's like a really deep like term and it has a significant meaning. And I think change is basically, in the most basic form, is you're willing to not be what you are. You're willing to be something else. Like, so for example, you might, all right, so you said earlier about the finances. You before watching the stuff that you learned from the Jewish content creators, you didn't know that stuff, and then once you watch the content, you now learned it, and I'm guessing you've now implemented it into your view on finances. That's the willingness to adapt and change because you've changed your perception on something. And some people, it's like you can't tell them nothing. Like no matter, like you can give them all the facts, all the information they need, yeah, that will help them. But because they're so stubborn in being who they are, they refuse to learn what you're trying to teach them. Yeah. And I think that stunts people's growth because it's like, there's so much more to know. There's so much more to learn. There's so much, you can't possibly be the best ever. Like you can't possibly be the best that you could ever be. You can always get better. Everyone can always be better. But some people are so adamant that they are what they are and refuse to learn anything else. Like you'll give them a fact. You give them like indisputable evidence, yeah, and they still won't hear it. They just don't care because they just want to see it the way they want to see it. I've got a feeling
that I'm going to touch on in a sec as well, but is it better or different? And like, so when you say like, is the ability to kind of like to become better, or is it the ability to become different? Because sometimes the difference might look better to someone else, where to another person it might not look better. So for example, like, let's say for example, people that live in the hood, yeah, if someone's coming out of the hood, so for you, becoming different is like not being involved in certain things. And then one person might be, oh, that's better because they're like, you're making certain changes. And another person in the hood might be like, you know what? Like, to me, that doesn't look like it's better because I want you to kind of stay here with me sort of thing. So is it about the difference when it comes to change, or is it about being better in general?
I think they're both the same thing. So you can be different and not be better, but you can't be better and be the same. You have, if you're better, you're different. So it's one of those ones. And touching on the people in the hood and stuff like that, it's like, hypothetically, imagine there's somebody who they never cared about going on the straight and narrow path, innit? They only cared about doing crime or whatever it was, yeah? And they've been doing crime for a long time. Let's say they've become really good at it and they've made a decent amount of money. They can continue living that way, yeah? And at some point, it will come to an end. They'll either go to jail, they'll be killed.
It's always a risk.
Yeah, you can only keep gambling so much until you lose the game. But then they're in a position where they've got enough money and they've got enough, like they've learned enough where they can transition into something else. But there's a lot of people who will not transition. They refuse to transition. Even though they've got enough money to start a business and to do whatever and start like all of the skills that they've learned from their dodgy stuff, they could transfer it into the good stuff or into the straight and narrow and play the game that society wants them to play, like the law-abiding game. Yeah, they could do that. And they probably would be successful at it because they have the same attributes. They had to use the same attributes that they would need for success to do the dodgy stuff, but they just don't want to. They would rather keep doing the dodgy stuff and not do the other thing because it's too much like out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of people's downfall. And that's where it's like, it's only a matter of time, man. And it's like, I think you should always be willing to change. It's like, you never know what's going to happen. At any given time, one of the options you've had, or one of the ways you've had to make money might not be a thing anymore. Let's say, for argument's sake, I don't know, you sell some sort of something, whatever it is, some commodity, and that commodity is no longer available. You could have at that point, you could transition into something else, but a lot of people will not. They'll just try and do whatever they have to do to continue doing that thing. And it's
and the thing is, they still have the foundation and the skills they develop through doing the other thing that they can take on to doing a new thing. One of the best things that I've listened to, one of the audiobooks, I can't remember which one it was, but they were talking about try do as many things as possible to improve your foundation. Because like the more experiences we get, the different things we try out, then basically it's going to get to the point where like people will start seeing patterns within everything that they do because there's a crossover almost all the time. And I've tried to do as many things as possible. Now I'm starting to see the patterns are like, hold on, there's a crossover in that. This is kind of done with, so the foundation's kind of being built to be able to do different things in general. So I feel like I'm not saying I can just do everything. I feel like there's a lot of things I can do, and I'm very like versatile just because my foundation is built to the point where like I can transfer it to different things.
You've got loads of experiences from loads of different places.
Yeah. And I think that's a very important thing to do in life in general. But just going back on the change thing, this is something that I've heard recently, and this one hit me so hard, and this might be why some people don't change as well, and I wanted to ask you what you think about that, So basically, people usually people have a bias with information that confirms the truth that's convenient to them or aligns with a worldview.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah, so an easy example I'll give you is zodiac signs. Yeah. So people are looking for certain type of information already in their life, and they'll read a zodiac
and
sign,
it aligns with what they want.
and it aligns with what they're looking for. And so I think sometimes we change is that they have a certain bias that whatever you say to them, it doesn't matter because that's not the information they're looking for. They're looking for another type of information.
Yeah. I think it's like, it's kind of like humility, like being humble, being able to be humble enough to understand that you could have it wrong. And if some people are so arrogant that they don't believe they could ever have it wrong, like they believe they know what it is. So an example would be, let's say somebody, so I don't know, let's say there's a minority, some sort of minority group, and they imagine that everyone's against them because they're this minority. And they say the world is like targeting them, the laws are structured in a certain way so that they can't win, and even when they go for a job, the employers are treating them bad because of this minority that they're part of. And that's their worldview. And because of that, every time they get into a situation, that's a bit tricky, a little bit hard or whatever, somebody's giving them a bit of a hard time, they just rule it off as, oh, it's because of whatever, because I'm this minority. And that suits their narrative. That's confirmation bias. It's like you're seeing some sort of negative thing and you imagine that that's the reason.
But it also gives them an easy way out.
Yeah, easy way out.
The more difficult thing to do is like going, cool. Even if sometimes it might not be true, sometimes it might be true, but going like, I'm part of this minority and this person's treating me in a certain way, maybe it's because I'm part of the minority, or maybe they're just treating me because of who they are. Like maybe they're projecting something.
Yeah, or maybe I'm just a
Yeah.
dick. Maybe I'm just the way I'm being. Yeah, is like I'm just abrasive. Maybe I'm so arrogant. Maybe I'm so disagreeable. Maybe it's hard for people to even like me.
Yeah.
So that I feel like it's better to. If you're super arrogant, then you imagine that there's nothing wrong with you. It's purely them. But if you're humble and you have some sense of like knowing that you can be wrong, yeah, then maybe you start looking at yourself. What have I done? Like maybe that interaction we had, I was just being abrasive. I made them not like me from then, and then this just got worse and worse over time, and I just need to sort this out. Yeah. And it is possible that they just don't like you because of whatever reason, but so what? People don't have to like you, and you can still improve yourself. You can make it where somebody who didn't like you off the jump actually likes you because you're actually cool. And so I feel like it's a mistake to assume that the problem is outside. And it's always beneficial to assume that there's something that you can do better. And that goes back to the change thing, where it's like, if you are aware that there's something you could do better, then you know that there's something you can change to make things better.
Well, but that's the thing, is going back to the easier route to go, I'm part of this minority and I'm not going to do nothing about it. Where the harder option, the harder route is going, you know what, there's some stuff I can change about myself. I can also become more resilient.
Yep.
And I can rise above this. Like I can be like there's people who've risen above that.
For real.
There's actual like real stories out there, people risen above it and they're successful.
100%.
But if they said, you know, I'm part of this minority and that's it, then, you know, they wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, and I like to judge things by their outcomes. So let's say you got two people. One person who believes all the problems of the world are external, something to do with the world, other people. And then there's someone who believes all of the issues that they're facing are their own issues and they need to sort something out within themselves. Those two people, if you watch their lives, you will see what happens, innit? The outcome will tell you who was right and who was wrong. Yeah. So I really believe that, like, the way people justify things it's just down to whatever stage they're at in life, but the outcome tells the truth about the situation. Yeah,
no, definitely, man. That's powerful. Yeah. So Andrew Tate, we spoke about Andrew Tate last time. I don't want to talk about him anymore. Just in general, do you know what it is? I don't want to talk about Andrew Tate at all because everyone's talking about Andrew Tate. So I thought a better question, instead of touching on that today, would be, I wanted to touch on like different. So when it comes to different genders, there's two things I want to touch on anyways. But the first thing I want to touch on, when it comes to different genders, what are the double standards, or what double standards have you seen that men and women have? And then I've got another question after that.
I think the double standards between men and women are that men are expected to just put up with all of the world shit. Like whatever the world wants to throw at you, like you just have to put up with it. And if you complain about it, you're weak. And if you, and as a woman, it's like, if something bad is happening, a lot of people will sympathize with you and care about your opinion and care about the mistreatment that you've been going through and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. But I don't think it's wrong. I think it just is what it is. It's by nature. It's like of the two, of men and women, men have to be the harder ones. They have to, because we're physically stronger, and in a scenario where we have to do what we have to do, it's going to be the man that has to protect the woman, especially because she might have children, she might have a baby, she might be pregnant, all of these sorts of things. It's like the man has to be stronger. So I feel like that natural phenomenon like reflects in societal like, I don't know, beliefs on the issue. Yeah. So I think that's the difference. I think like things are a lot more difficult and a lot more, you have a lot more, I don't know, a lot less sympathy for men and a lot more sympathy and understanding for women. Yeah. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Just adding on that one, like one of the like double standards I've learned recently, and by the way, just to be clear, like for the audience, like I'm not pro any gender. I'm pro individuals in general. So and I'll get onto that question in general in a sec, anyways. But so one of the things that I've kind of like realized is that so for example, like it's easier. Like men are better taking criticism, or it's easier to criticize men in general compared to women. So for example, like, you know, if someone goes to a man like, oh, you're a loser, you ain't got no job, you need to get a job, you need to make more money, or you need to buy a house, or you're overweight, you should go to the gym. All these different things. When men are being told these things, like not every single man, but most of the men will be like, you know what, you're right, I need to make adjustments in these areas, I need to do something about it. Where if people say the same thing to women, suddenly becomes a thing, you can't say that to them. It's like if you tell a woman she's overweight, or you can't be saying that, or you can't be saying all of these different things because they're a woman.
Yeah.
So I find that really interesting. I started realizing that recently. I was just like, fuck, like that's a big double standard.
Yeah, I think most women are more sensitive than most men. There are women that are just hard as nails, in it, who are not sensitive at all, and they'll just take whatever criticism you have for them, and they just don't even care. And there's guys who are very sensitive, who you can't say anything to, otherwise they'll just like literally be thinking about it for the rest of their life, and they'll just be really depressed about it. But in large, women tend to be more sensitive than men, and I think it's a lot to do with them being more in touch with the female like things like emotions and like empathy and sympathy and all these sorts of things. Women are more in touch with that. So when someone says something to them that is offensive, it really gets to them because they take it a lot deeper than how guys take it. But and most guys, we're used to rejection. We're used to being like people like taking like just saying horrible stuff to us, and even like society like does horrible things to us. Even like when you look at the laws and stuff, it's like even you look at like the whole child thing where it's like women are automatically given the child, like, or they were automatically given the power over the child, like in terms of they can kill it if they want, they will get like they can abort it or whatever if they want.
Well, in America it's crazy. So like there's certain men who are moving to certain states that are more rewarding towards men when it comes to, like, for example, like let's say like if they had a divorce or they were deciding who's going to be looking after the child, certain men actually intentionally making, because basically most of the states in America are always looking out for the woman most of the time, but there's certain states, I think there's 1 or 2 states, I can't give you the specifics right now, I'm sorry, but there's a few states there where it's more like they're leaning more towards the man. But
I would say even rare. In those situations, it's probably leaning more towards neutral. I doubt it's leaning more in the man's favor. Maybe it is, but I imagine that it's just more neutral.
You know what, you're right. It's more neutral. But what I meant by saying this is it's not necessarily towards man's favor, but what I meant is that a man would have a better chance of like basically settling those things if he was in those states compared to other ones. And other ones, it would be just fully favored towards the woman. So neutral is a better chance for the man to have. So to me, even neutral is like favored. You know, I'm trying to say that's already good to have in the first place. But that one question I was going to ask you, and I've been thinking about this a lot. Should we stop looking at genders and would it be more beneficial to just look at everyone as individuals one by one rather than just generalizing genders and how people behave? Yeah,
I think so. Like this is like one of the points that I've made a few times, and I think it's like the whole identity politics thing, isn't it? It's like identity politics is the belief that you are in a certain group. Whatever that group is, you might be black, you might be Chinese, you might be a woman, you might be white, whatever it is, you're this group, and because you're this group, you should be treated this way. I think that that's completely wrong. I think that that's what a lot of media is pushing. That's what a lot of people of today who claim to be virtuous or like act like they're so compassionate or whatever. That's what they're...
Woke culture, I think it's woke culture, isn't it?
Say again?
Woke.
Woke. Woke culture. All of that. It's like they claim to be morally superior because they care about all these groups. But what they're doing is basically putting you in this group and saying, because you're this group, you need to be treated this way. And that's wrong, in my opinion. In my opinion, you should treat people as individuals. It doesn't matter what group they're in, it's who are they? Are they an arsehole or are they cool? If they're cool, Give them all the respect that being cool needs. If they're an arsehole, treat them as an arsehole because they're being an arsehole.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I just think that it is better that we treat people as individuals, regardless of what supposed group they're part of. Because I think we're way more complicated than that. I think humans are way more complicated than a skin color or a gender or whatever it is. I think there's a lot more to us. It's like, are you a good person?
Because all those things are external, innit?
Yeah,
it's like they're all like visible external things. Like gender's usually visible. Well, nowadays it's becoming a bit less visible. But gender's usually visible. Skin color's visible. All these things are visible. But what we can't see is the inside, is the internal stuff. And I agree with it. The reason I asked you this question because I'm shifting from, because I'm tired of this whole like us versus them thing. Like whether it's a race thing, whether it's a gender thing, I'm just sick of it, bro. And I feel like us versus them creates more separation. And I'm seeing that more and more often. Same thing happens in the government, left versus right, all these different things, and it's just like it's not really helping. So for me, what I realize as well is like, I think for me it's just about, you know, people's values and their sort of like perspective in life that I want to get to know. And I think it'd be unfair to say that every single individual or every single gender have got the same values. That's impossible. And that's what I started looking, you know, every individual's got their own values and stuff. But however, I do believe that, you know, different genders would have different challenges. And I think there'll be some crossover, like there will be like gender neutral challenges, which is like, doesn't matter what gender you're from.
Can we clarify what gender means? Because I'm not actually sure what we mean when we say, so are we talking about, when you say gender, because I don't know the difference between gender and sex. As far as I know, and again, I'm like super ignorant on the topic. I don't really know what this new narrative is, I don't really understand it. I haven't taken time to work it out. But as far as I know, there's men and there's women. And that's sex and that's gender. Both of them are the same thing. But are you of the belief that there's something else? Because I don't actually know anything about that.
You know what, actually, so I think that's a good point in general. So I think sex is, so someone will be like, I think it's different now because you can have a transgender person, right? So the sex might have been, I don't know, like
Is transgender the same as transsexual? Or are they different things?
I think anything
I don't even know, you know,
is
this is
biology, isn't it? So anything that's sex is biology related, and then gender is probably like, I don't know, like to make life easier for I guess other people, we can say sex is what you're born with, it's biological, what do you have between your legs, and the gender is what you identify as.
I'm going to clarify this for you because I've got something to clarify. I've had it before.
Whilst you're doing that, I do want to kind of touch on one of the things you said earlier. With the whole like treating people and where like treat ourselves like ourselves and treat the good people like good people, right? I hear a lot of this stuff of treat people how you like to be treated. Before I say my point on that, what's your thoughts on that? Do you agree with that?
Treating people how you want to be treated? To a certain extent, I agree with it. It's like on a neutral like level where you first meet somebody, treat somebody as you would like to be met when you're first, or you would like to be treated when you first meet somebody. Like, just be neutral. Don't don't judge people based on their appearance or something, or like, I don't know, this guy's Indian, so I'm gonna do you know what I mean? Treat him like the same as you treat any other race of people. It's like they treat them on a base level with respect. Now, once they show that they're an arsehole, like whether it's like an arsehole or a good person, once they show they're an arsehole, it's like, I'm not gonna treat them how I want to be treated because I'm not being an arsehole to him. He's being an arsehole to me. And like, so I'm just gonna kind of dismiss myself, like, or distance myself from this person. For whatever reason, he probably don't like me. Maybe he's a cool guy to other people, but he's not being cool to me, innit? So I'm just gonna distance myself, let him do what he's doing. But yeah, I don't want to be treated like the way that I would be treating an arsehole.
Yeah, of course.
But if somebody perceived me as an arsehole, then I would understand why they're treating me in that way. So if I said something that was particularly abrasive, or I was being, I don't know, maybe imagine I was drunk that day or something and I was just being an arsehole or something, and then people started like treating me like what I deserved because of the way I was acting, then I would have 100% understanding for it. I would know why and I probably would try and apologize. I'll probably be like, I don't know why I was acting like that. I'm really sorry about it, and I wish I didn't. I know you're probably still mad at me, but just know that I don't.
I think in that particular situation, you want to be treated how you want. No, sorry, I went left. Anyway, essentially,
do you know, can I say something on that?
Go on.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't believe I don't believe in treating people how you want to be treated. I believe in training people how to treat you. And usually training has a negative.
Exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah. Oh, you want to say it then? Go on, say it.
We're gonna say the same thing in two different ways.
Nah, bro, go on. You say it and I'll say my thing after. If that's what you're gonna say.
Essentially, I think that's bullshit. I think treating people how you want to be treated is bullshit, and the main reason is because each individual version of good is different. I regularly say stuff like I don't believe please, thank you, and general manners is necessary. I think it's valueless. I think it means nothing when you say it, and it means more when you do it. So I like to be treated someone who they don't say. No one says please and thank you to me. They show please and thank you to me. Whereas the rest of the world, you have to say please when you open the door for someone. You have to say thank you when you open the door for someone. You have to say please when you want something. That's kind of the world we live in. So if I was to treat other people how I like to be treated, which is the lack of manners, the lack of verbal manners, should I say, then now everyone hates me because I'm rude in a way. Same thing with the whole jokes and kind of bantering, whatever. My way of making jokes is, some would say, disrespectful. I regularly call my friends dickheads, and they know what that means. They know it's a valuable and friendly thing. So when it comes back to me, I take it the same way. Where if I do that to the next person, again, I'm now the dickhead. I'm now a bad person.
I think it's a lot to do with language. So even the please and thank you thing,
But I don't think it's verbal language. Sorry, I don't think it has anything to do with the verbal language. The noise that comes out of your mouth has nothing to do with it. Because we can make any combination of noises, and as long as you understand it in a certain way, it makes sense. If I speak a different language, you don't understand it, but then someone else would. So it has nothing to do with the verbal language, in my opinion. It's just more of the person language. What language is your person speaking? The body and the voice and the mind and the connection, all that stuff. But
just the whole. I think we need to train people how we want to be treated. So an easy example would be, I think it gets more complicated than that, but an easy example would be, like, if I don't want people to call me after a certain time, I don't pick up the calls at that time. So let's say that if I don't be called after 9 p.m, and what a training sometimes looks like is like, if someone calls me at 9 p.m, I can also communicate with them, but I don't have to. But I don't pick up phone after 9 p.m. So if they call me 10 times on 10 different days after 9 p.m, and maybe one day they'll call me before 9 p.m. and I pick up, they might be like, you know what? Usually when I call that person after 9 p.m, they don't pick up. So I'm going to treat them in a way where I call them before 9 p.m. Because that's when I get more success. So it's like how do they get received, or what's the most successful way of them being received at certain points? So when I say, I don't mean in a disrespectful way of like training people like dogs, because usually saying you're going to train someone sounds a bit negative, but I mean in a positive way. It's about training people how I want to be treated, and I think that's really important. Yeah,
I hear you, man. And just to touch on the point about language, I think like where you're talking to your friends and like you're kind of like bantering and you calling them like dickhead and all these sorts of things, it's like that's like an established language amongst you and your close circle, where it's like you lot say these things, it's not that deep, but then if you talk to somebody who doesn't understand that's how you are, they're gonna take it really personally. It's like, this guy's being offensive to me, saying these things, and so it's like, and when you say please and thank you, that's kind of like a general language. It's like one of these things that even if you don't know somebody, if they give you something, say thank you, innit?
I think everyone speaks like a general based language to everyone until they understand the person and they switch the language. My thing is that general based language is a bunch of bullshit. It's like these set ways of being that equivalent to being good, but it's like, no.
It's just a game, innit?
Yeah,
it's like
bullshit,
language is just a game. It's like, what game are you playing? It's like, if you're playing a social game, then you should probably not do things that are deliberately or that are just gonna make a point that you're not playing a game with them. It's like I spoke about this on one of my episodes where we was talking about code switching. Do you not know? I don't know if you saw
it's like
that.
when you're in I've seen it. So when you're, do you want me to say it? Or?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so like when you're, for example, let's say if you're in a different environment, let's say I'm from the roads and I talk in a certain way with the mandem or whatever. And let's say I go into the office environment and it's like, it's a whole different environment. I have to speak differently and all of that stuff.
Yeah, if you start talking like the mandem in the office, then straight away it's like what you're doing subconsciously is you're making a point that you're mandem and they're not mandem, innit? And it's like
It excludes people.
yeah, you're making a distance between you and somebody where that's not really beneficial to you to do that. It's probably better for you to show that you can be a mandem if you're in the mandem scenario, but you can also be a professional person in a professional settings.
Yeah.
And I think so saying please and thank you, it might just be that that's the scenario, that it's like, it's not that you're not lessening yourself or you're not being inauthentic or something by saying it. It's just that you understand that if you say please and thank you, you're just talking a language that they understand at that given time. But it's not saying that that's what you do most of the time. It's just in a particular scenario you might do that because it might be relevant or it might be appropriate at that time.
It feels weightless, man. It feels like because I would say, because that being said, I still say it naturally. Yeah, I still say my pleases and thank yous to come out naturally when it's calls strangers. For it. And it is I think it's hammered into my brain at this point that it's what you're meant to do. That whole thing you're meant to is like, it's crazy, but it's what you're meant to do. But the more I think about it, the more weightless it becomes every time it comes out of my mouth, because it means nothing to me. So I think me making this point, and I make this point regularly, but the whole we shouldn't be saying, you should be doing it. The whole purpose of it is to make a point. Is to make a stand, is to make a change, is to help people understand, is to spread this mindset like wildfire. There are nations in this country, I think I don't know if it's Portugal, France, or Spain or Portugal, or even other countries, and my civilization, the people that I grew up in and in Algeria and whatnot, these people don't say please and thank you. They're the rudest people in the world verbally. They're the rudest people in the world verbally. But the kindest people in the world.
But when you're talking to them, like in the language they speak, do you feel a sense of them being rude to you, or do you feel like it's just
standard language?
Yeah, so you're playing that game, innit? You're playing the.
And for me, it's a better game. Because even like now, like I've been adopting a lot of my dad's personality traits, and obviously
It's a different game.
Yeah, it's a different game. Well, better is actually I'd like to call it better. I've been developing a lot of my dad's personality traits from Algeria and the way he talks, and a lot of it is like sarcasm and kind of asking, are you stupid, in different, very different and fun ways. But it has nothing to do with me calling out your lack of intelligence. So it has nothing to do with that shit. It's just simply a verbal response that allows laughter and then problem solving after that. And there's nothing too rude. It's just a bit of bonding, like connection building or whatnot. And there's a much better way of living, the way I see it.
I read something controversial a couple of years ago, and it spoke about that people are not naturally nice, and it spoke about that being nice is a skill that people put on just to navigate social scenarios and things in a better way, but sometimes they don't necessarily mean it, or most of the time they don't even mean it. Not to say that some people are not naturally nice. Some people I think are naturally nice and they're genuine, but I feel like
it's developed.
Basically, he spoke about that being nice is a skill that's a little bit ingenuine, and it can be utilized in that way a lot of the times when people don't even mean it. It's like the whole thing of like, oh, thanks for passing. Like, or someone might be thinking, oh, you're a prick, or they're like, oh, thanks for that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So being nice is it's almost like a skill. It's not a way of being. It's something that people develop over time. It's quite an interesting thing in general.
Speaking of language, I did have an interesting experience. We come to the end anyway, but although I'll land on this point. So quick story: my sister bought me a couple pairs of socks. Right, it's a boring present you can never buy someone, but we'll take it. I took them and I said thank you, but she didn't hear it apparently. So late in the day, she was upset about something, and I said, I bought this guy socks. You didn't say thank you. So my response to that, I did say thank you. You didn't hear me. You wanted me to be thankful. There's a difference. You want me to be grateful. Because if I said thank you and you didn't hear it, like, you don't care about say thank you. Oh, say thank you. You didn't hear it, so it doesn't matter if you hear it or not. You want me to be thankful. Now, with that in mind, I'm now stuck in a dilemma. Because I don't fucking need these socks. Nor would I ever wear them. Okay, they're completely different to what I already have. So if I'm thankful, I'm lying to you. If I'm not thankful, I'm being truthful.
I would argue it's the opposite. So I would argue that it doesn't matter whether you're thankful or not. It does matter that you said thank you. So it's like saying it is just a custom. It's just what you expect. You give someone something, you expect them to say thank you.
That makes it weightless.
Yeah, it is weightless, but it's like we're playing a game. It's like the natural next step after you receiving this thing is to say thank you. That's the natural next step. Anything that deviates from that is it's strange. It's like, okay, you've not said thank you. I don't really care if you're actually thankful. It's just socks. It's not that deep, innit?
Yeah, of course.
But why didn't you say thank you?
Like, because it's different, is now a
But
whole
do you know
thing.
what? Do you know what I think it's about? Yeah, I think the whole like thank you and please stuff is, I think it's around avoiding certain battles, and I think that's what it's about. I think it's about picking your battles. It's like I don't think it'd be beneficial for you to have like an argument with your sister over a pair of socks.
Yeah,
I think you
But
just
I
keep
don't think
it.
it doesn't have nothing to do with the socks. I think it's an opportunity for me to explore what it means to say thank you. Like the whole thing of like when you, as you were saying about the whole custom things, I was boiling in my brain because like this, it's custom to do this thing, but we don't understand these customs. The same way we don't understand that Christmas is actually not Christmas. Like,
Well, thank you is acknowledgement. It's just an acknowledging someone for the action. It's like the same way you're gonna say hello, and it's like, if we know it's meaningless, like someone goes, "Oh, how you been?" Like, I'm good, basically. But what that means is like, what that really means is like, I'm acknowledging that you're there and your presence. Like when I say hello, I say goodbye. Even when I say goodbye, I'm like, I'm acknowledging that I'm leaving your presence. It's like these things are just like signals to someone's physical being, of, you know, of maybe someone's action.
Yeah,
They're just like communication signals. They're not necessarily like, they don't necessarily have to be full of meaning.
yeah, it's not that deep.
But yeah, as I'm saying,
But to take it out is kind of deep. It's like to not say thank
that's
you.
to me it's so crazy and so stupid because like I did like, because I didn't do this thing that is custom and is normal and is done regularly, because I see it a bit differently to what's been implemented in the minds of so many people without even understanding what it truly means, is now taken left, and now I'm all of a sudden I'm a rude person. I'm ridiculous. Like she doesn't give a shit whether I say thank you or not for the socks, but because I didn't do it.
How'd you know that?
Because we had a conversation. I understand her as well. She's very, yeah.
Well, tap.
I was honestly tapped, but
That was a joke, by the
it
way.
was no, it wasn't. It was because I didn't say it. Because if I said thank you, this whole nothing would happen. It would be,
It'll be neutral. It'll be a non-event.
I did say thank you. She just didn't hear me.
Yeah.
But it's because I didn't say it. Now it's become a whole thing. But the thing is, we don't know what we're upset about.
So imagine this, yeah? Imagine instead of not saying thank you, you actually said something like, I hate you. Like someone gives you something and you say, I hate you. That's weird, isn't it? It's like you're doing...
But that's not, again...
You're doing something that's not normal.
What would you want to say, though? In that situation, what would you want to say to her?
Get a refund. I don't wear these socks.
You don't want these socks?
That's besides the point. The socks are still my...
You know what? Fuck it. What size are the socks, bro? I'll take them.
You don't fit my shoes.
Huh?
You don't fit
What size are you?
7.
That's, yeah, you know what? Run me the socks, bro. I'll take them. Nah, so I'm being serious. I'll take the socks, bro.
Regardless, the
It's
point,
just
the fact
socks.
that it's just socks. That's like, I don't think.
But it's also just thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like.
It's like, it's not
but
that
the
deep.
thank you has a bigger weight. Like the socks thing is the socks is a catalyst to have a conversation. The thank you thing becomes a part of your vocabulary and a part of your person moving forward. Because now that I say thank you for everything and everything, I don't understand what the word means truly. It's just a thing that was said. It's like a preset.
It's like an acknowledgement of receiving something. It's like you've received this thing, you've made the acknowledgement. It's like you send a text to somebody.
Fuck it. You know what? What was the expectation? What did you want to receive in that situation?
I didn't expect anything.
You didn't expect anything?
No, it's
so
just
she
finish.
exceeded your expectation, which is you received something.
You don't expect me to slap you in the face if I did it right now. Would that be exceeding your expectation? You want to say thank you for that?
So you're saying that her giving socks to you is like a slap in your face?
No, I'm not saying that. Don't.
So what are you saying? Let's break it down, bro. Because we're just going in circles. Listen, let's break it down.
You're saying I didn't expect to get socks.
What was your
as a present.
expectation?
Shut up. You're saying I didn't expect to get socks as a present. Therefore, she's exceeding my expectation. But if I slapped you and you don't expect it, that slap is exceeding expectation.
If you like slaps, or if slaps are
that's
like
if you like slaps,
something positive, it's like a gift.
If I give
So are you
something
saying
negative,
that receiving those socks was not a positive experience?
it was neutral.
It was neutral.
It was neither.
Okay,
But
cool.
don't you appreciate the fact that she thought, okay, I should get you something, and she went to the shop and got something, even though it's not a major thing.
Now I take offense because she knows that.
But you know what? For something that's neutral, you made a big situation out of it, though.
Because it has nothing to
If
do
it's
with
neutral, you wouldn't care. You just kind of you go like, oh yeah, it's just socks. Like,
It
just
has
move on,
nothing to
innit?
do with the socks. It has to do with the language that we are mentally trained to use without understanding properly. That's what it's about.
So can't you just give a neutral thanks?
No, because I want to have the conversation.
Yeah, so imagine, you send a text to somebody on WhatsApp, You normally on WhatsApp, you get 2 ticks in it, and they're blue, innit? Imagine you sent a text and you got 0 ticks. The tick is basically thank you. It's like it's acknowledgement of receiving it. It's like if you didn't see the ticks, you would assume that they never received the gift, innit? So it's just, that's it. It's like, oh, they never received the message. It's like she gave you something. The natural acknowledgement of it would be thank you. Thank you is not a deep thing. It's not like, oh, I'm so indebted to you, I need to give you everything. It's like, cheers, innit? Thanks. Like, it's just a light little statement.
I like to put weight on words.
Like, let me tell you something. Thank you is a big thing when you're stubborn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you is a big thing when you're stubborn. Yeah. It's a big thing.
Like if you're mad at someone and then they give you something, you don't want to say thank you.
Yep. I'm not mad at it, but it doesn't
and do you know what? If there's a more stubborn person that I met in my life, is this guy. So that's what I was kind of getting to. But you know what? I want to take it back a little bit because I didn't get to touch on the gender stuff. Yeah, the gender and sex stuff. So there's for people that are listening, there's something called the gender bread person. Yeah, I don't know if you heard of it, but it's a nice way of like. It's kind of like a goofy way of explaining what like different genders and sexes and attractions mean, basically. So just to touch on it, it kind of breaks down into four different areas, yeah. Which is actually 4 different areas, which is identity. So it's kind of like how we think about who we are within our brain. So sort of that's like internal stuff. There's also gender expression. So that's like the feminine or masculine energy. How do we express ourselves? Like what do we wear? What type of clothing we wear? So how we express our gender. Now, going back to the point that you made, and I think that's where it's getting more complicated. Where back in the day, like there might be like one biological sex. Now it might be different because people can kind of alter their biology a little bit. So biological sex is obviously, it's like whether someone is like female or male or intersex, basically. And the sexual orientation is the sexual, whether like, you know, they're heterosexual or bisexual or homosexual or any other sexuality. So it's kind of like, that's just more about who are they attracted to. So the sex is like who are they attracted to rather than who they are. But the gender is more like who they are, the identity is like who they are, and like the expression is like kind of like part of who they are. Where sex is more external, it's like what are they attracted to, sort of thing. So yeah, that's basically just for clarification on that one, because I think it's all interesting stuff. Like I think it's important to know.
So the reason I asked that was because you was getting ready to ask me a question, and I wanted to clarify it before you asked the question. Do you remember what the question was?
I think I already asked the question. I think the question was I think we was talking about. Yeah, I can't remember now. We just deviated so much. Like it's I can't remember.
No worries, man. But you've given me more understanding of it.
Yeah.
I still, there's the intricacies is a bit complicated, but so from what I'm understanding from what you're saying is that gender is subject to how you feel or what you identify as.
So yeah, it's identity, expression, gender in itself.
And then sex
is a biological gender, and then
else.
sex is what we're attracted to.
So is there such a thing as biological gender if biology is to do with sex?
No. So sex. So they're two different things. So biological gender. So our gender is either what gender have you born as. So if you're born a man or a female,
isn't that sex? No,
that's not sex. Sex is what we're attracted to. Sexual orientation. So sex is like what. So for example, like I'm a straight man. That's sex. That means I'm attracted to women. So straight man would be sex. So heterosexual would be sex. That's the sex that the person is. So sex is like who do you want to have sex with? That's the best way to put it forward. Okay. So if someone's bisexual, that's the sex. Their sex is bisexual.
So if you have a brand new baby who's got nothing to do with sex, that they're a baby, they're not even, that part of them is not even developed. They don't understand what that is. They're a baby.
They don't have sex. Their gender.
They're not a man or a girl. They're not a boy or a girl.
No, they are. They're a gender. So they're either born as a boy or a girl. So they have a gender. Later on, if they decide to change that gender and become transgender, which means they're transferring the gender to a different one, that's up to them. So they can still be a different gender, or they can identify themselves as, there's a new thing, it's called non-binary. Actually, non-binary, I think that's more of a sex. I'm not even sure. No, that's a gender. I'm not sure. I need to figure that out.
This is very complicated.
I know it's complicated, but it's good to talk about. It's good to clarify these things. But sex is to put it straightforward, it's like, what are you attracted to? That's what sex is.
Okay.
Sex is like, what are you attracted to? Are you attracted to man, woman, transgender people, non-binary? I don't know, all of that different stuff. Because I spoke about autosexuals before.
Yeah, I remember.
That's sex as well. Autosexuals, people that are attracted to themselves. So yeah, sex is like, what are you attracted to?
So when you're filling out a form,
Yeah.
does it ask for gender only? It doesn't ask for sex?
No, it asks for both. It would ask for both. It would ask for your gender and it will ask for your sexual orientation.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what it is. It's literally what it is.
Okay. Yeah, it's complicated, and I'll be lying if I said I fully understand it. But from what you're saying, I got a bit more of an understanding.
Yeah. But that's something we can talk about off cameras at some point anyways, because that's something I've been kind of spending more time of understanding, because I work with young people and there's more and more young people who are just like, I need to understand where they're coming from as well. And yeah, there's all these different, just I feel like just going back to the individual thing, and I think that's what the question was, rather than looking at that was the question, rather than looking at people's gender, what gender they are, should we look at them as individuals? And I think my answer is like, I think yes, because people are becoming more of individuals. Like it's
so that being said, if we're not gonna consider somebody's gender, then does that mean if a person, regardless what gender they are, is acting aggressive with you, you can defend yourself physically?
Yeah, I think so. I think as even in the eyes of law, as a right, we have the right to defend ourselves. You know, pretty much in all the parts of the world, it's like that's a legal thing. It's like if someone's attacking you, we always, we have a right.
I know there's some sort of leeway in the law, where if you imagine somebody is doing something threatening, so say for example, some guy approaches you like very aggressively, you can hit them as self-defense. I don't know what he was going to do. He was approaching me really fast and aggressively. I've hit him as self-defense. That there is some leeway in the law for that.
Well, they call it, there is a leeway there as long as it's not identified as excessive power. And that's what they use in this country anyways. They use it as it's like as long as it's not excessive power, it's like not overboard. But what that means is up to the like eyes of law, like, like when you're in court to decide what that means. Like what's the excessive power that could have been used.
So let's say somebody approaches you, some aggressive guy, he's shouting all over the place, then he starts walking towards you like really aggressively, and he's kind of put his arm back. Before he hits you, you've hit him because you're not even trying to get hit. You just like whatever he's trying to do, you're taking him out. That seems understandable when you're talking about a man approaching you. But when a woman approaches you aggressively with the same energy, shouting all over the place, she's walking towards you fast, for some reason it feels wrong to defend yourself, even though you don't know what she's going to do. She's coming at you crazy. What do you think about that?
I think both of them might be considered in this country anyways. In another country maybe not, but in this country I think both of them would be considered as excessive power depending on the outcome. Like if I hit a guy
one time, you hit them once.
Yeah, if I hit them but if I hit them once, and sometimes the one time could be like
fatal.
Yeah, it could be fatal. It could be like could cause some kind of serious damage. And
but there's a big difference between that and then hitting them while they're on the floor. That's that's excessive.
Yeah, I mean maybe that someone could get away with it, but I think even that could be considered as excessive because they haven't hit you yet. That's the thing. It's that they haven't hit you yet. So
are you supposed to?
Because a lot of things are for you're not obviously on a real life situation. I get what you're saying. I don't think we're supposed to wait, but in a law situation, but like if you're in court, I think it doesn't look good because a lot of things can be up for like perception or perspective, especially if the other person claims that that's a lie. So then you're in a worse, if you've got no evidence, no camera footage, no nothing, then I feel like I'd be in a worse position because they're just saying like, yo, I was never going to hit him, but he hit me first, like whatever, and I got this damage because of that, or like there's no evidence of, so that makes me look bad. So I think it's always a situation where like, obviously you shouldn't wait to be hit first, but I think there's different ways of dealing with it. I personally would recommend every single person to start doing jiu-jitsu because basically you can put someone down without having to like beat them up or damage them sort of thing. So I think that's how I would deal with the situation. I would use jiu-jitsu on that person, and it's not even excessive power because I wouldn't be damaging them or anything like that. And then from there, I can see what that situation looks like. If the person's trying to, the person's trying to hit me while I'm trying to like restrain them or whatever, then I'm beating them up. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's something like, yo, like this.
But does that change with the gender? This is really what the core of.
But for me personally, years ago I would have said yes. For me personally, it doesn't change with the gender at all.
What do you think, Aladdin? Do you think it changes with gender? Because for some reason I feel like it does, and maybe that's wrong. But I just feel like I can't. If I'm gonna hit a girl, it like literally would have had to be the only thing I could have done.
Before Aladdin says it, let me ask you this, what if she's gonna stab you?
That's what I'm saying. If it's the
do you
only
care about
thing,
the gender?
If it's the only thing I can do to survive, then it can be done. But if it's just the potential for damage, because I don't want, if a guy's coming up to me, talking like he wants to, like he's doing a madness, isn't it? He's bare aggressive. He's walking towards me as if he's gonna hit me or something. I'm not waiting to get hit. I'm just like, we gotta just get it on like straight away.
I'm not waiting either, but just in.
So that being said, since that's a natural, a natural urge, given the threat that you feel like you're in, because somebody's coming at, because you don't know what they have. They could have a knife, they could pull it out, and it's like that one hit could just be it. It's like, so you don't want to even feel that one hit. You just want to defend yourself. And really, you have a personal space. I think there's like a perimeter where it's like, if anyone comes up in your face like that on some aggression thing, it's got to be self-defense. But I feel like it's a bit different with women.
Okay, cool. But if the woman hit you, would you like, what would you do if the woman hit you?
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
That's it.
No, it's funny. I actually just saw a post of a man being manhandled by a woman, and he just on bitch slap. I can't lie. My response is, I'm never the first one to to throw. I'll never be the first one to throw, but I know enough about fighting to be most situations the last one to throw. Gender or no gender, I don't give a shit. I think the only thing that gender does is change the weight of the power. And sorry, that's not even gender. It's the person's physicality is what changes the weight of the power, right? So
if she's like hench,
then we're going full force. You know what I'm saying? Gender has nothing to do with it. Because if you can throw a punch, you can take a punch. That's my rule. You can throw one, you can take one. I could take one, but I'm not going to throw one. You know what I'm saying? So if someone's going to throw a punch or hit, like the whole thing of like the whole gender immunity kind of bullshit that a lot of people have and I want to say a lot of women have, but because essentially it is the women that have it. Not all of them, of course, most of them or a lot of them, but us men don't have gender immunity.
Here's something interesting, MMA, a man that became a woman.
Fallon Fox, is that who you're talking about?
I don't even know. Maybe that person, but I'm pretty sure there's few other cases. Basically, that's a guy battering women every single day.
But then again,
I'm just saying this.
If you look at some of these women MMA fighters like Cyborg and the Rondas and the Nunes, was it Nunes? Something like that. There's a woman, a Brazilian one, insane fighter. But they don't have to be a man. They'll fuck you up regardless. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to do with it.
Yeah, but they're not gonna the top female fighter is not gonna beat the top male fighter.
But that obviously has something to do with the genetics or whatnot.
Top female fighters coming to you aggressively. Same scenario. Yeah, she's coming. She's like, I'm gonna fuck you up. Like, all of that stuff. Yeah.
I don't think the top female fighter can beat me up.
You think so?
I don't think so.
I think you'd be surprised,
Nah, but you'd be surprised, bro.
I think you'd be surprised.
Google Amanda Nunes. I think that's.
Because you know what it is? Like, I've trained with some like serious like female fighters, and like they're on job. Like, you'd be surprised, bro.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I know. Like, unless she's like giant. Unless she's
not even
like
giant, bro. You know what it is? Yeah. What about a female that's like a black belt in jiu-jitsu?
Are we in the same weight class?
Huh?
Are we in the same weight class?
Let's say she's a little bit less weight than you, but I think she will wrap you up,
It's debatable. Maybe she would.
Because you know what I say this, and this is not like, I'm not trying to be ignorant or anything like that, and I could be wrong, so I'll leave it for like, I'll throw that in the air, but I think, have you done jiu-jitsu before?
Not jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so I think if you've done jiu-jitsu, I think you'd understand what I mean, and I think, like, there's some women who are so experienced in jiu-jitsu, like they will do certain things that, like, you wouldn't even know how to get out of. I think jiu-jitsu is the best self-defense sport in a one-on-one situation.
If she was able to grabbed me from behind here. Like that was the starting position of the fight. She had me in a neck in a grip here already. Yeah. Then maybe she might be able to.
She could
but
take
I wouldn't
you down.
let her get that grip.
But that's the thing, she could take it not even behind. She could take it down from the front.
Potentially.
While you're trying to throw punches.
I should say so. Fighting today is not about brute force. Sometimes, like a lot of time today, fighting brute force is an extension. It's like a bonus thing that you have that you can use only if you know how to use it. But it's nothing to do with, like, brute force has nothing to do with your ability to fight. It's the knowledge of how to manipulate a human body against your will.
I get it.
This is why jiu-jitsu is fucking amazing.
I really get it. I really do get it. Yeah, but imagine a child. Yeah, I'm not trying to say women are children, but just imagine a child who's skilled in fighting. There's still certain limitations because of
when you learn to manipulate a human body, pressure points are universal.
I get what you're saying though.
But you understand what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
Like no matter, there could be a double black belt, or triple black belt or something, that's like a small framed young boy, and he could punch me in the face with his hardest punch. And then I could punch him in the face with my hardest punch without being a triple black belt.
But someone that has a black belt or someone that's a skilled fighter would know, like, one of the main lessons you learn in fighting is not how to win. It's how to understand. Defense is how to understand your opponent's weaknesses. So if you say, a kid will bang you in the face and you do the same turn, that would never be the fight.
No, but the point is, I'm just trying to put it into perspective. It's like, there are clear differences. You are limited by your genetics to a certain level. It's like,
you're talking about strength. You're talking about physical strength.
Yeah, but that's saying that brute strength is never the outcome of fighting no more. It's a thing we can.
I understand.
No, you can do. So do you know what? Just to kind of like to add to what you're saying, and I think to some extent you're right, to some extent you're wrong, but I think the right extent is like depending on the weight.
That's why we have weight classes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, definitely.
You're not gonna put a super heavyweight against a featherweight.
I've done jiu-jitsu with a female who weighed less than me, and no matter how, because she was skilled, but no matter how skilled she was, she didn't have more strength than me. So every time she had to do something, I was able to break it or whatever because of the weight difference.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, a female that not necessarily same weight as you, maybe just a little bit less, not too much less, but a little bit less, could still do it.
Potentially.
But obviously a female that's like way like...
But there are genetic factors.
Yeah, 100%.
So there are the fact that we have broader shoulders. There are the fact that we have stronger upper body strength.
I think the genetic factors have
I'm not arguing against that. I guess my point, let's just clarify something, I'm not arguing that there's that there aren't any like genetic differences. I agree with that, there are. I'm just saying that there's some females that would just beat up the guy.
Yeah, 100%.
Because of the
some
skill.
Girls will beat some guys. 100%. It's not like all guys will beat all girls. That's ridiculous. Yeah. Some girls definitely will beat some guys. There's some guys who can't fight, who they're like super like.
But physically, they have the upper hand.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's why men and women don't fight in the same fights. Yeah. It's like people have tried to push that narrative. People have tried to say, it should be neutral, but you've seen what happens. The prime example is what you said about the transgender guy or girl who had a fight with loads of women, and it's like he wasn't, or previously before she took the whatever it was, before she went through the process, he wasn't a good fighter. He was like some lower ranked fighter, but for some reason he can beat all the best fighters of the women, and it's not because he's more skilled than them. They're obviously more skilled than him. It's just because he's hench. He's got big shoulders, and he's like do you know what I mean? So it's like. No,
I think it's the physical advantage plus skill combined. Yeah,
you
know what I'm trying to say.
I kind of see that as cheating. The reason why I see it as cheating is when you talk about the genetical advantages that men have over women. Again, I see that as an attribute that you can use to your advantage. You can train that attribute to your advantage. So essentially, he's going into a fight with an advantage that he's been able to train that not the rest. Like it's like going into playing a football match with. I don't know, like steroids or whatever. Essentially, it's like a non-versus.
Yeah, like because he's got natural steroids in his body.
It's like an extra thing that you use to. You know what I'm saying? But like I think like steroids, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like steroids, you can't just take it and you're fucking Popeye and all of a sudden. You have to train. You still have to like train and manipulate and work it, but it's still like a thing, like a resource that you have that you then use. And I see that of strength. I see that of knowledge. I see that of anything. It's just having this thing to your disposal has no value until you train it. I can have a gun in my hand right now. If I have no accuracy, I'm not killing no one. You know what I'm saying? So it's all these.
But
things.
even with no accuracy, you can kill somebody.
I can.
Even though you've got no training, you can just shoot somebody.
But when I go up against someone that's a trained Marine or whatnot,
then
they
they'll
understand
win.
that no matter how I have a gun, he has no gun, but he understands the weapon and he understands the person. Then with that knowledge, he can then manipulate.
So that Fallon
and win the
Fox
fight.
transgender woman did actually lose. Eventually,
Yeah, I heard.
somebody
yeah.
actually beat her.
Yeah.
Some woman. So,
How did they
but
beat
that woman, she done a post-fight interview, and she basically said that was like the hardest fight she ever had. Like every time this transgender woman punched her, it really hurt. Like much more than any other like fight that she's ever had.
That probably has something to do with what she's familiar with. Then that might have to do more to do with what she's familiar with.
She trains with guys, but guys are not giving her the punch that. Like the proper punch, innit? They're punching her like just training her. They're not trying to really hurt her. Whereas this guy's really trying to hurt her.
You know, some guys give the proper.
that.
You know what it is? That's another conversation for another day, anyways. But there's this whole conversation around like women in martial arts where some women prefer not to be hit hard, and some women want the guys to hit as hard as possible, just so they can feel
It's a
like
training mechanism.
they're on an equal thing. But it's like, there's a whole conversation, and it goes back to the individual thing. It's not a gender thing, it's an individual thing, because some individual will be like, I want to be hit hard, and some will be, I don't want to. It's nothing to do with gender.
Someone might say they want it, but I don't think people understand how fragile humans actually are. Some people can get punched once in the head and they're never the same ever again. So it's probably not a good idea to be asking for a really hard punch in the head. It's like sometimes that's all you need. There's people who've had that one punch and for the rest of their life they're struggling to even function.
Yeah.
So it's and if you're there's a clear reason why there's a difference between women's sports and men's sports. They don't put them together for this
100%.
reason. And a good example of it is there's not only transgender men that have gone to women. There's also women that have gone to men, but those women that have gone to men are not dominating any sport.
Nah.
And there's a reason.
No, there's a couple sports. You got your gymnastics and you got some swimming. I guess some swimming sports.
Well, there's a story of a woman transitioning to a man, and then saying that she didn't understand how difficult it was to be a man.
Yeah, I saw that story. That's crazy.
Yeah. And how women like are towards men, and then she learned it.
She was a feminine activist, so she was like proper feminine and. Like,
I've seen that as well.
And she did a year or 2 years as pretend to be a man.
And
I think she fully transitioned. Yeah, I don't know what the ins and outs, but that was
she didn't
crazy.
transition. She disguised herself as a man.
Yeah, she's wearing suits, short hair, all of that.
She had a fascinating experience.
This is such a touchy subject, though, man.
Nah, it is,
we don't want to get cancelled.
No, listen, I don't mind being cancelled. I think, and it's not like I want to be cancelled, but, and I don't think we spoke about this before. I don't think it's possible to even cancel people, anyways. But you know what it is? I feel like people need to have these conversations, and if people feel like cancelling people, but I'm still trying to learn. Like me having this conversation is I'm learning what that means.
Yeah, me too. I don't know all of the intricacies of this. Definitely.
But yeah, I was gonna say to you. Actually, no, we're gonna start wrapping up soon, anyways, because we're running out of time. But before we do, what would you say? Do you watch YouTube? Like, have you got any particular YouTube channels that you watch or you pay attention to? Like, what's your like top 3 YouTube channels that you're subscribed to, or you? Like
I'm really into podcasting right now.
Yeah.
So I watch podcasts. I like Vlad TV. I like Joe Rogan. Sometimes watch Drink Champs. I like that Chucky Online. There's loads of them. I'm mostly focusing on.
It's mainly like podcasts, basically.
Podcasts, yeah, and then music. So when I'm driving, maybe I might listen to music, or like audio book or something like that. But yeah, man.
Who would you say like we didn't even get to touch on this today, anyways. In terms of the podcasting and stuff, because I wanted to ask you some questions on that. But who would you say your biggest competition? Do you feel like you've got competition in the podcasting world? And if you do, like who is it?
At this stage, I'm such a small fish right now, man. It's like I've just started. It's been less than a year, and I'm still trying to get my head around it. I feel like to compete, you kind of need to be like, I don't know, a bit more established than where I'm at right now. I don't think I'm particularly competitive right now. I think I'm just working out how to do things and still trying to get myself together, trying to deliver a better product to the audience. So yeah, I don't think I'm necessarily in competition with anybody at this stage. Yeah, I don't know. I'm more just like a fan of podcasts, a fan of the industry. Learning more about it, trying to get to know loads of tips and tricks and how to make it work. I'm
never saying you have to compete, but if you was to compete, who do you want to compete with? Is it that podcast?
My aspirations for the show are for the show to be the biggest show. So whoever has the biggest show, that's who I'm aiming to.
So you're in competition
win.
then.
Yeah, but I'm such a small. This is what I'm saying. I'm such a small fish. Yeah, it's like at this stage, I'm not even like they don't even know I exist.
Yeah.
So I feel like in order to be in competition, the people that you're competing with need to like be aware of you. Like if they don't even know you exist, then.
But you can still can't you still compete with someone without them knowing you exist? So
I aspire to be better than them.
Yeah.
To be better than all of the people that the podcasts that I watch and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm in competition with them. I'd say they're way too established at this point. I'm in my first year. A lot of these channels, a lot of the ones I mentioned, they've been going for a long time. I mentioned Joe Rogan. He's been doing it for like
15, I think, 12 or 15 years.
Yeah, ages, man. And it's like, I imagine it won't take me that long to get there. But the point is that at this stage, it's too early to be in competition with any of these people. And I really just admire them, and I really just see them as like people who set the kind of the blueprint for me to kind of follow and work out.
Yeah, I get that.
Like my own pattern, how it works.
By the way, I just found out the origins of. You might find this interesting. I found out the origins of the word podcast and where it came from.
Okay.
Did you know about it?
No, what is it?
So apparently, obviously Apple produced like iPods and stuff, and what people were doing, they were putting like broadcast shows on the iPod, and that's how podcast was born.
That's funny.
Yeah, broadcast on iPod, and there's a
really pioneers of this
podcast.
thing.
Yeah, seriously, that's how the origin of it came out. Listen, I need to go to the toilet. Can you ask the last questions?
Bet.
Yeah, thanks.
Run.
Cool. No worries.
You're already familiar with the last two questions, so I'll keep it short. For anything, Cameron, is there anything you want to promote the show or anything else as well?
Anything I want to promote?
No, let me break that into two questions actually. Let's break into anything you want to promote from yourself and anything you want to promote from something or someone else. So it could be like a book that you read that's amazing, or some type of podcast or some type of channel or whatever. Something to promote from yourself and something from someone else that you want to promote. Okay,
the first thing I'm gonna promote is, like, in regards to myself, is my podcast. I want everyone to go check it out. Also, I want you guys to let me know what I could do better in it. Like, have a look at the content. Let me know if there's something that I can improve on. If there's any subject matter you want me to talk about with my guests, like, let me know. Yeah, we're really trying to build it up as big as it can get, and it's the first year. We just celebrated our 50th episode, and yeah, man, I'm just so I want people to check that out, have a look, like, get involved with something on the ground level, innit? This is really the ground level of the show, yeah, and like, you could be instrumental. Like, when channels get so big, yeah, they can't even really like process all of the comments and all that sort of stuff. I'm still reading every single comment. So yeah, man, just like hit me up, contact me, let me know what I can improve on, all that sort of stuff. So it's the Social Engineer Show. It's on YouTube, Spotify, all of them sort of things. That's my personal thing that I want to promote. But in regards to other people and other things, I would say support all of the other up and coming podcast channels. Beyond the Surface, it's a great show. There's loads of them. Like, just check out all of the up and coming guys from London. Just trying to work out what we're building our own sort of thing over here, innit? There are a couple giants out here, but we're still trying to like work out how it goes, innit? Some of the biggest, like, as I said, like, you asked me what was the three that I'm listening to, or what was I said three that I was listening to. They're mostly American stuff, so it's like I want what we got over here to get as big as what they got over there. So that's why I want people to go check out all of the UK stuff, all of the London podcasts and that. In regards to just something I generally think would offer value to the audience, read a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. And if you don't like reading, listen to the audio book. It's literally about 5 hours of audio. So just listen to it. And trust me, man, if you have any issues with money, if you read that book, you won't have issues with money again. Like that book is like, I don't know, man. It's almost like a Bible for money. It's like, it really just explains what money is, and it gives you like the laws of gold. Like the book is set in a time, like the Sumerians time. So it's like they're dealing with like copper, gold and silver. But it's the same principles. They transfer to any currency. And yeah, so read that. That will do you a lot of good. That's a lot of value that you will get from that in your personal life. So that's what I'll promote for you. But yeah, if you want to know what I'm on, Social Engineer Show, if you want to know other ones that I'm promoting, Beyond the Surface, all of that. So
we'll have all the links in the description, so thank you for that. Do you wash your hands?
Oh, I got the last one, yeah?
Did you wash your hands?
Huh?
Did you wash your hands?
Yeah, of course.
You sure?
Yeah, 100%. Still got water here, bro.
What does that mean? You could have sprinkled some water on your hoodie and use that as proof.
Hey, do you know what's funny about washing hands, yeah?
Go on.
You know when COVID came around, they were like showing signs of how to wash hands, like people didn't know how to wash their hands. I was like,
How do you
raw,
fucking
that's
not? Because
wild.
there's the disease.
Or people didn't know how to do all of this.
Mad, innit?
That's wild, you know? So what do people do? Like they put their hands under the water and they go like, yeah, it's time to go. That's crazy. That's actually wild.
Cool. So last question. Very simple. You already know it. You got one opportunity to say one thing to 7.9 billion people. Fuck the last billion. 7.9 billion people.
So we lost a little bit. We lost 0.1 of a billion.
We can forget.
Oh, we lost what? We lost?
It goes up and down. There's like a bloody global
Bro,
holocaust.
it's 8, bro.
Regardless, you have one opportunity to say something to either 7.9 or 8 billion. You get to choose how many people. What are you going to tell them?
Yeah, I never really know how to answer this question.
Yeah.
But if it was just not about promoting anything, just purely about something that I would like everyone to know, it's that life is short. And while you're here, you should like make it significant, make your existence significant. And in my opinion, the best way to do that is by being an asset to yourself, your immediate community, and the broader community. So that's what I'd say.
I like that, man. And listen, I appreciate you a lot, you know.
I appreciate you,
and
man.
I'm also learning from you as well. And the main thing I've learned from you from watching your show is that I can always do more research on things. I can get more facts correct. And you've got this like nice way of structuring the question, where like you give the pre-build, like kind of like a pre-build towards the question. You explain what you mean before you ask the question. I think that's a really nice thing. So I'm taking that away from you as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And I really like what you do as well. So, and the way I see it, we're pretty much both on the same like level where, so obviously you've been doing it a lot longer than me, but I feel like we're both like kind of just working out what works and what doesn't work. And
Definitely.
Yeah, man. So I really like what you do as well. And yeah, man, I need to go back through all of the episodes I've missed, man. But as I say, I was watching the most recent one, and that one was really good as well. So yeah, man, all your content is really good. Everything I've seen of yours.
I have a plan, before we close off the cameras, the plan is, obviously we'll link up anyways and all of that stuff throughout the time. But let's sit down in like 10 years time and just reflect on how far we've gone and all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Down. That's sick.
Yeah? Cool, man.
All right, love.